Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to Drawing Down the Dragon. We were going to be doing Occult Explorers, but we had a bit of an issue. Our co host and dear friend Dion got called into work, but our special guest here, Shada Montfort of Magick Magazine, is with us, my dear friend, and she decided that she's going to come and have an interview with me instead. So I apologize for the no Occult Explorers. We hopefully will be back next week where we can do part 6 of our deep dive into the Gothic subculture. But today I get to hang out with the wonderful Shada Montfort. So I'm really excited for this. Such a beautiful soul, one of the most interesting and remarkable people I've had the pleasure of meeting online. So really am excited to talk with you today, Shay. How are you? How's it going? We've been having some audio issues, so hopefully they're getting
I'm trying to solve it by swapping to different cameras, and it doesn't seem to be working. So I'm going to go back to your camera, although because I'm just seeing you.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's interesting what we like. I'm in Australia, you're in Canada, and that we can actually talk is absolutely astounding. So
Absolutely astounding, is it not? Right? It's bright and early there for you. It's the middle of the afternoon in the previous day for me.
Yeah,
it's wild to think about.
My opinion is that the little audio glitch that we're having is neither on my computer nor on yours. I think it's somewhere on the internet in between. I use Starlink. So Mr. Musk, maybe you're up there, Mr. Musk, listening, and maybe you can just connect us in a bit better.
Well, you were telling me that you were having some pretty severe weather up where you are, so that could be the culprit.
It's been weird. They got me to do some readings for the local newspaper, and I said it's going to get colder up here, which it has done. Like if I could show you out the window, where I live in a cloud forest, so it's often cloudy, but it's really, it looks like it's about to snow, and we're in the tropics, and Sydney's having an amazing heat wave down there. So
wow. Yeah, and this is your summers is well, right? So it should be the warm season, right? Like,
so
how cold does it get?
My other son's been down in Tasmania, and they've had like 3 feet of snow in Tasmania for Christmas. So
oh, that's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole global weather is gone kind of amok. Like normally where I'm at, we get this time of year we get like a ton of snow normally, and it's really, really cold. And we have had the normal ton of snow and cold, but just the other day, like 2 days ago, we had a snap couple, like a whole day where it was super warm. Everything got rained out. It was torrential rains. And then the next day it's the snow, which makes it super dangerous because everything gets really icy. It's like, just wild.
So I wonder if we can get some feedback from the people. I can see there's people watching us. How is the sound for them? Is it crazy? Can you tell us? Can you drop us just a message and let us know?
Yeah, how rough is it?
If it's too bad, if it's annoying people, we could wait until we solve some technical difficulties and come back. So
right.
Yeah. So but there's the weather is changing, but there is a weather cycle. We do go through a weather cycle, and a lot of people don't realize that with all the solar flares we're having, which is essentially an electromagnetic storm, and we've been having such increased intensity of these electromagnetic storms. Are we building to another Carrington event? And if we are, it's amazing that we can talk on the internet at all.
Right.
Yeah.
And it just seems to also feed it, like, we're in this really weird moment right now. Like I had opened up my feed and I'm looking at some of the people that I generally follow, and there seems to be this general reaction within a lot of the magical community to this apocalypticism. It's like either people yelling about the apocalypse is coming, or they're yelling about those yelling about the apocalypse. And everyone seems to just be feeling it, though. There seems to be a shift in energy and in current.
It's a human thing. I don't know what it is about a human thing. Is it our self-protection mechanism? Because we, or do we just want to be right? Is it the Jonah syndrome? Jonah in the Bible, that he sent him over to Nineveh, and he was like, well, Nineveh is going to be destroyed. And then they all repented and weren't destroyed. And so he went and sulked under a tree because millions of people weren't killed. So do we just want to be right? Or are we trying to avoid disaster? Because the secret to survival is to put yourself intuitively in the right place at the right time, not the wrong place at the wrong time. So
no, right. Yeah. It's interesting to think about, we are in this, definitely in this massive kind of a shift with this emergence of AI. And I wanted to ask you about this, actually, because this has been another topic that's been coming up a lot within the magical community. You have many people who are turning to AI and algorithms as a source of oracular divinity. What do you think about AI? Are you in the pessimistic camp, in the optimistic camp? What do you think?
Look, Elon Musk's very famous statement that he wants to switch to real AI intelligence because he wants to meet God. That's does he want to control God is probably the real question there. But the last episode of the franchise of Aliens, where we get to meet our creators, and how not only are the creators disappointed in us, but we're disappointed in the creators as well. I think that's a desire within humanity. Is AI going to do that? Yeah.
Right.
I think AI, go ahead, it's got serious limitations. I spent 3 days trying to link, just to set up an AI thing that would send my YouTube videos to all my other social media. It's so, like, AI is supposed to help with it. It would have been quicker for me just to do it by hand, So I think it is a little bit like the Industrial Revolution. I think it is going to cause a lot of changes. I think it will cause a lot of changes with the way that we do things. It's the unexpected change is that it started with creativity first rather than domesticity, which is what we all want our mechanization to improve, is our domesticity, so we have time for creativity. But my son, who works way, way high up in AI, he does hate it because he feels it's taking jobs away from people. But he also acknowledges that there are incredible limitations to it. And I think the people who are looking to seek God in there will be again disappointed when they meet their creator, if that's what they're looking for, because it's limited. And
absolutely, that's a fair point. I keep thinking. Go ahead.
No, sorry. What do you think? Do you think Greek myth is actually about that as well? Because there's the evolution of the different phases of gods, and the gods meeting the gods, and they're trying to destroy it, and Zeus tried to destroy Dionysus, and
yeah, I'm a big fan. I am a proponent. When I think about the mythopoetic cycle, we're both pretty well versed within the Western esoteric tradition, and I kind of have that general perspective that views this universe as sort of an evolutionary machine to create intelligent, mature life that can exist outside of time. So I kind of see all of this through cycles, and I look at the Greek myths as cycles. It's very clear to me, in this particular moment, we're shifting. I think in some ways Crowley was really right about his projection of the ages. And this is a really good mythopoetic image to view the shifting of the cycles through. We're moving from that patriarchal father into the child, right? We're coming out of that rigid, singular view, where I think the big issue that we see in Christianity that is still lingering in our current age is this only one path, only the masculine path of ascendance. You only have the path of Dionysus imitating the Great Mother and rising to meet her in purity. You view the earth and life as some kind of a prison that must be rejected. and you, as a such, you miss kind of, you miss so much of reality. You become bound down in this, this anti-life thinking that allows you to be imprisoned and you know imprisoned, basically. It's kind of funny because the Gnostics are trying to break free of the prison, but they are imprisoning themselves by not facing reality. And when I look at people like Peter Thiel or Elon Musk, and I see how they conceptualize AI, I just like, it's just laughable to me. I was talking to this with my wife, and her point is it's a Frankenstein thing. These are men trying to create God without women. It's still a holdover of that patriarchal previous age, and it is founded in this real deep hubris that we can create life without the need for nature. And it is this egoic projection. Like, I was listening to Joe Rogan, and he was talking about Peter Thiel and their concepts of creating a Jesus Christ in the AI, because it would be born of a virgin mother. And I'm like, AI is not a woman. You guys are still in this patriarchal, trying to reject nature and the femininity of reality. You cannot reject matter. You can't reject the great mother. You need to incorporate both sides. And as such, I feel like that is such a holdover. But I also see AI as this potential, right? We're on the cusp of shifting. We're breaking free of that limited patriarchal mode. And I think the child, AI, is very much a child. And we are going to have to learn to work and play with all of this. It sums up the moment really, really well. Like, it could go in any way. I have no idea. All I know is it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. Are we going to send the Titans to tear it apart? And is it going to have to hide in a cave with goats for a while? Is it going to happen? So, but we have that archetype of men seeking their God, right? And being so wary of when they start to find it and they go into destructive mode. It's, and Zeus was afraid that Dionysus would replace him. Maybe he has in some levels, but Zeus is still there. Zeus is still worshipped in Greece,
Oh, yeah.
Saturn is still going through our skies. Jupiter is still in our skies. We will never lose these archetypes. But, there are the new, it comes. It's not just about the sun being born. It's about, will we embrace the new or do we resist it? There are some really interesting things. I was listening to a couple of podcasts about intuitive AI and how this gentleman was asked AI to do a write-up on everything he could find on the internet on him. So give me a blurb about myself. And not only did it tell him about what he had done, but it also gave a blurb about what he was going to do in the future. And he was like, I've got that planned. It's not on the internet. It's not anywhere. Am I that predictable? So, AI actually is a predictive tool. And I think that there's a potential use for it for divination. That's what I think.
This makes me think of one of the great classicists. He's a classicist and fiction writer. I'm sure you know Isaac Asimov. He had that grand idea of psychohistory, which is this predictive model of history. But we see this also within the Greco-Roman tradition in general, right? There's this understanding that, life is fated, that everything has already happened in a certain concept. And, right, but to us, we're in this, we're in this limited perspective, right? To us, it appears like we have free will, but if we could see all of these strings that make up all of the things that pull us, we would realize how determined our actions really are. I mean, maybe recognizing the determination would cause us to do something different, and there's where something interesting can come in. But until you get to see that perspective, you're bound in this limited way, according to your time, your place, your body, right? There's so many determining factors. But at the end of the day, also, it doesn't matter because it appears like we have free will. So we live life according to free will, right?
Yeah. Well, we do. There's free will and, the predetermination and destiny and all those sorts of things. But Greek myth again is full of, how we create our own destiny.
Yeah,
If you go to war, you will destroy a great nation. Great, let's go get him. And he destroys his own nation.
absolutely.
So
That's also the constant
so
story of the oracles is never go to the oracle, because every time you go to the oracle, you manifest the future. It's the future she gives you. You create it in that moment by going to her
but they
and
give
trying to
you an
divine the
option.
future.
They give you
Yeah,
an and or. All
yeah.
right. So, never give you one option. They never go, this will happen. They go, if you do this, this will happen. Which means, you have an option.
And it's always
So
like
it is the
when you read
choice,
about
but
like I remember reading I can't remember the passage, but a while back I was looking through all these examples of the emperors using the sortes with Virgil, and then there's always the repeating pattern is this: they'll find a passage, they'll frustratedly try to figure out what it means. Then all of a sudden the event will happen and it will be laid plain what it means, but they can't get the meaning until the moment. So it's like
yeah, yeah, a little bit like playing Monopoly.
right?
Monopoly for divination. Yeah, but yeah. No, I was also spun out when you said the classicist Isaac Asimov. Like, I remember his books when they first came out. And we're like, and now we're calling him a classicist. It's like,
I like to call him that
makes me
because people
excited.
forget that he has that background.
Yeah.
They like to just, especially in our modern age, right? We're so removed from him. We see him only as the great science fiction writer. When meanwhile, he's one of the most prolific writers of all time. He wrote like over 1,000 books. It's ridiculous.
Doesn't it make you like I look at Asimov, Heinlein, like even Jules Verne, and now I'm going, well, who is the next great science fiction writing mind? Do we have one at the moment?
Oh yeah.
Is our society
have you
lacking
checked
that?
out? Have you ever heard of Chickson? I can't pronounce his name very well. I'll have to write it out. It's a Chinese author named Chickson Zhu, and they wrote a couple really amazing books like The Wandering Earth. I'll try to find how to actually spell his name. But there's a bunch of really great. He also came up with this idea that's been really radical in terms of philosophy. Chickson. But yeah, he came up with this a bunch of really wild stuff. You got to check out his work. There's a show on Netflix that he's doing. I'm trying to remember what that is.
Well, maybe you can put some of those links down for everybody below. That'd be great.
Yeah. Three Body Problem is the name of the series. If I was going to say there was a modern science fiction writer, check that out on Netflix if you guys haven't. Really awesome show.
Because, it also brings up the idea, like, are these guys predicting the future with or is it because the collective consciousness grasps these ideas so much that we end up working our society towards this? Like Asimov's idea of robotics when we came out, a robot when it first came out wasn't what we have today. It was nowhere near that. But, have robotic scientists gone, well, we could actually work this towards that, so are these guys predicting the future, or are they giving that oracle? Are they becoming the oracle to go and or you could do this?
Well, this is where it gets kind of scary because in with this guy Chickson Lu, or however you pronounce their name, in the Three Body Problem, they kind of have this theory of, so the big problem that we face with the universe is, where are all the aliens? Right? Everyone's trying to explain, right? If life is as abundant as we assume, if the stars are as abundant as we assume, with all these exoplanets, there should be intelligent life. Why aren't we seeing it? And there's been many,
Maybe
many,
because they're
many,
not
many
interested in us.
theories, right? Exactly, right? It could just be that simple, right? It's so hard for us to, you know,
Yeah.
one of the things that I keep thinking about is that in order for a life to get to the point where it could traverse the stars in these in truly expansive systems, why would they bother with us? But then again, I think about humanity and we study everything. So, like, we spend people dedicate their lives to studying the variations in beetles. So, I mean, who's to say what an alien would do? But
Yeah.
they're trying to deal with this problem, and the author came up with this interesting concept, which is like, imagine that the universe is like a forest or a jungle, right? And as such, everything is afraid of getting squashed and eaten by the apex predators, so everyone is hiding. And so in his story, it's Earth is sending out these singles trying to get seen, so we get seen by the big apex predator who comes to come squash us. And that's what they're talking about, is that the universe is really like
Yeah,
a
that's an old
jungle or an ocean.
Yeah,
you know
that's an old concept with alien. I mean, it was Jules Verne in War of the Worlds. We've
Right.
been, it's out there somewhere. But when they come from Mars, it's not what we expect.
Right,
But yeah,
right. Well, there's no new ideas, honestly, right? But it's a new framing of an old idea, imagining the universe as a jungle, right? Coming in to get us. But
yeah, it is.
it's a bit different, though.
But yeah, but what if I think the biggest blow for humanity would be, all these people that go, oh, they come here to experiment on us and they want to blend their DNA and the Anunnaki. What if they've come here and gone, yeah, not interested? Oh, no, they're not even interesting anthropologically. Yeah, let's go.
So one of the wild things, though, that we're getting into.
How does our ego handle that if we're just below interest?
Right? Or if we've been like, yeah, you're pushed off, we're in that far off other side of the universe, no one can be bothered with us. Like,
yeah. Maybe Douglas had it right. We're on the unfashionable spiral arm of the galaxy.
They're afraid that we're going to try to, guaranteed, if we contacted aliens, the Pope would show up and try to tell them about Jesus. I don't know about you. If I was the aliens, I'd be running.
No, maybe that's why.
Right?
No, we're not going to go there. They'll proselytize us. Quick, close the doors. Pretend nobody's home. The Jehovah's Witnesses are coming down the street. Yeah, maybe that's.
But there's something truly magical, though, about science fiction that hasn't been fully discussed and fully embraced. When I look at the birth of science fiction, who's the first science fiction writer? It's the Greek author Lucian, who writes the true story about men giving birth through their thighs on the moon and like traveling the stars in chariots. But the thing with Lucian is that he's very much a magician, and he's writing magical satire designed to influence and to propagandize to people, and to try and change and shift people's perspectives. And if we look at like science fiction, that is the aim of it. And what's so wild about, like, why I love Asimov so much is, like, they're the golden age of science fiction, right? The apex of at least American science fiction. But they try to posit a future outcome. What was so wild to me as a young person when I read Foundation is the ending. Most people never get to the ending, but I was the mega nerd who had to read them all. And when you get to the ending of the series, the robot R. Danilaw is orchestrating behind the scenes humanity. He's given, right, these problems that he has to solve, like the laws of robotics. And the big one is he has to bring people together in harmony. So how does he do that? He molds us, gets us to merge with this alien plant that gives us a shared consciousness. And then he has humanity create a unified mind that they call Galaxia or Galatea, right? This is, the Galaxia was the feast at the Temple of the Muses where everyone used to gather as equals. right? So it's a very much this Apollonian Greek concept of coming into this shared unity of mind, but yet it's still experiencing our individuality. And Asimov saw this as kind of like a utopian end, right? As like this grandiose way that we could solve our problems. And I remember as a young person, that blew my mind, and I thought, this is the greatest thing. And then my dad is like, oh no, you got to now go read Frank Herbert. And I didn't realize it, but these science fiction writers are talking and they are debating each other. And Frank Herbert, he's also someone deeply in the classics, but he's also a naturalist, an ecologist. And he looked at that situation where you have humanity uniting as a single mind in this kind of utopian shared, like, space. And he saw that as going to self-destruct and stagnate. You've created an end node. It's anti-life, it's anti-nature, it's no longer changing. And so you're doomed. He saw that as turning into Saturn, Kronos. So that's why in his story, you have this worm god, the dragon Saturn, who comes and devours his children that needs to be overthrown so that life can diversify. It's like a direct reaction to Asimov. And it's, if you don't know the magic or the classical literature,
we have to have that element of chaos.
Exactly.
There's I think number one on Netflix at the moment is Pluribus, or is it on Apple TV, where they have designed a virus that creates a universal consciousness, and it affects everybody except 12 people. And,
that's wild.
So you see it from inside and outside of this unified consciousness. And where has individual creativity gone? And she writes a shit novel, and the collective consciousness is so excited to read something new, because with their collective consciousness, they can never have anything new, So it's just this interesting. So there's really interesting. I can see why it's going to win awards, because it is putting in all of these. What will happen if we do have a unified collective consciousness? What happens to the individual? And that was the whole problem with communism. We have
any utopian ideal
wealth, but but we have the value producers, and the value producers give up on being value producers because they're not being rewarded for what they do, because some other person comes and takes what they've worked for away from them. So there has to be individual. There's always going to be levels of man was created equal, but when they act, they don't act equally. A friend of mine who's just been forced out of her own. She set up a beautiful community that was based on very high principles, but it's the lowest human denomination in there that has forced her out of her own community, right?
Wow.
And she's had to go and take these guys to court to even get her money back for setting up these communities. Because
I've heard about that happening before. Like there's another friend. It tends to happen to a lot of these high-minded, beautiful women. Unfortunately, at least the people that I've heard these stories from. And it's just really sad. That's really frustrating to hear. But you're right though. There's both, when I look at communism or I look at fascism, even they both have an endpoint of utopia, or Christianity. They try to imagine a stagnant world. They imagine an endpoint where everyone lives in harmony and everything is peace and love. But that doesn't exist in nature. It's anti-life. In order for that to exist, you have to destroy life. You have to exit this world, which is why Christianity is inherently Gnostic or slave-inducing, because you do get those versions where they say there's going to be, 144,000 who get to rule over all of us for eternity. So it's like they create this perfected hierarchical kingship, or they imagine a stagnant end where we're all just doing what? Meditating and staring at the wall?
It's a Pythagorean concept to start off with, the 144,000.
Right,
remember
right.
the Pythagorean concept? We will take these, I think it was 1,000 children, right? And we will train them right from the start to be rulers, and they will be kept ethically and morally pure and can't be corrupted. Yeah.
Right.
Good
Right.
idea.
This is the thing. It's all based on dead, misinterpreted metaphor too, right? It's or like reconstituted metaphor in order to, you know, to imprison you. I don't know.
I know. But so and this is going back to that disaster consciousness. It's about where we put our feet, where we intuitively. There are good places on the planet, like where we have moved, where we've decided to live and build and start having our groups. It is a UNESCO World Heritage listed site. It is a sacred site to the Indigenous, but the Indigenous are afraid of it because in Australia there are levels. There's 4 levels of Indigenous spirituality. Like everybody is taught spirituality as part of their daily life. And then there's your initiations. Then they have the Gadaicha, and the Gadaicha are sort of like the boogeyman. So if you imagine Judge Dredd in Aboriginal dress, that's what a Gadaicha is. He's there to mete out the justice spiritually and physically to people who break the law. But by the same token, he's also a respected spiritual person. But there was a level above him called the Orisha. And the Orisha go away into the mountains. There's only a few of them. They sort of tell the Gadaicha what to do and where to go. But this was an Orisha mountain. So there was supposed to be an Orisha hidden here, so a hidden holy man. But they also used to bring the Gadaicha here for burial. And so this is, it's not hush-hush. It's not hidden. But the local Kumbamberi, like the women aren't allowed to come up here at night without a man because you might run into a Gadaicha spirit. So the men were there to protect them and things like that. So it's a very wild place. People who have tried to damage this place in the past have met sticky ends. Like the mountain takes care of itself. It's got a real strong personality. So you have to have a strong personality to live here. There's 750 people live up here. So it's not a big community. The majority of people sort of do their own thing. It is an incredibly creative community. There's a lot of creatives up here. But, people do their own thing. Like I lived here 45 years ago and I've come back and it doesn't feel like that much has changed. There's a few new houses. They're not letting any more houses be built up here. But it's sort of like the same stuff on a different day. Because we're at the extremes of nature. There's always natural disasters up here. There's always power outages. There's landslides that block us off and we get stuck up here by ourselves for a while. And everybody comes together, even though they sort of do their own thing. If something happens, all of a sudden your neighbour's on your doorstep. Are you okay? Do you need anything? Have you got food? Are you diabetic? Do we need to call the flying doctor to get some insulin? Like they're there to help straight away. So it's really interesting. So we have this community feel that wants to protect the mountain, like we ferociously protect the mountain against everything else. But by the same token, they're very much individuals. Keep away from each other. Except when they get together, Aussies in the pub, they all get together in the pub. Probably once a week sort of thing. Well, not all of them, some of them don't, but there's definitely a pub community up here. But the rest of the time, everybody just does their own thing. And I think that when you take away a lot of the governance over people and you allow people to do their own thing, there is an evening out that happens. There is whether or not they function from high or low parts of human nature, it's just like, if they're functioning from low stuff, people leave them alone for a while. They go over there and nobody talks to them. So they're their own punishment. And then if you want to be integrated with the rest of the group, you still got to be sociable again. And that's very much how the Indigenous Australians used to behave. They used to ghost people. The first ghosters were Indigenous Australians. And when you're in a nomadic group wandering around, you don't want to be ghosted.
No. Yeah. It's always interesting when you hear about these other ways that people do that kind of. I remember reading about, the people here where I live, they're called the the Ojibwe, and one of the things the Ojibwe would do is they would, if you were a person and you caused too many problems, eventually they'd force you to go sit with the grandmothers, and it would be all of the eldest women in the community, and each one would get to berate you, and they'd bring out lists. They'd have notes that they've taken all of the issues that you've caused in the community, and they'd all just guilt you, and they'd go through it all. And sometimes people would have to stay days or weeks before these women would let them out. But once you had heard all of their complaints and agreed that you weren't going to behave like that, then they would let you go. But this was their only, that was their only form of punishment. They didn't have capital punishment, they didn't have prisons. This is what worked. And there's this funny story about when these priests first came, and they don't even go to the grandmothers, they go to the war chief, right? And they think he's the leader, and they're asking him about stuff, and they want to talk to him about Jesus. And he goes, this Jesus character sounds like a petulant child. I think he needs to go sit with the grandmother. Like, he wants to be a king and everyone has to listen to him and he knows what's right. I think he needs to go sit with the women for a while. It's just funny.
It's good. Yeah, I see. I think they sort of have to go and sit by themselves for a while, and if they don't sort it out, they stay by themselves.
Yeah.
So it's very self-regulating. And it's good. It's a really interesting energy here. You know, the vortexes, like in Greek culture, you find a lot of the places, like the top of Delphi, they're at the vortex. They're like the energy gets pushed up. There's definitely that push up of the ley line to the top of the mountain, and you can feel that energy. There's some very sacred places up here. And stupid government has gone, oh, well, you know, ecotourism, let's jump in on this. We want to bring 550,000 people a year through there. And you're going, it's not going to be isolated anymore. It won't be pristine anymore. If you march 500,000 people a year plus through here. So, you know, and really the only ones that deserve to get up here are the ones that find their way up here themselves. You know, because it's you're welcome to come up here, not anti-tourist, but get up here under your own steam, find out about the place on your own, and then you and find the places yourself. Because
there's a certain kind of attitude, I think, you know, with Australia is very similar to Canada.
No, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't quite hear that.
I think there's like a certain kind of attitude with people who live in those places like you do. You know, you have to have that kind of homesteader, self-go-getting, you know, do-it-yourself attitude. It's the very same thing here in the rural parts of Canada. You know, people will help you and support you, but they expect you to do for yourself, you know?
Yeah. And if you, like you said today, you wanted to speak about temple spaces and things like that. So these sacred spots, you can feel it, you know, and I think that these sacred spots have that effect on people. But I also think once the temple complexes get too big, then that override the energy. Like in Tibet, there's a process that happened in Tibet, because Tibet's all mountain, it's the rooftop of the world. But when the Buddhists went in there, what they would do is they build a Buddhist temple, and there'd be a big earthquake, and the earth goddess up there would shake the temple down. She didn't want to be pinned down. And so they took an indigenous technique from the Bompo, and they built a thing called a purbar, which is a great big, essentially a tent peg that has a spirit inside it. And then where they built these temples, they put them on specific ley lines of her body. Shrinmo is the goddess of Tibet, and Shrinmo, they pinned her down. So they put these big, massive metal pins in the ground that they infused with spirit, and they literally hammered them down in the ground. Then they build their temples around them. So eventually Mother Earth shakes these out, and we did warn the Tibetan government. You know, it is annexed into China, but it's actually autonomous, that this was going to happen, that the cycle was coming up for her to shake herself free. And we had those massive earthquakes in Tibet just a few years back, and you now find a lot of those pins are now out of the temples, laying beside the temple. So they did listen eventually, because they don't want those massive earthquakes again, because she would do a series of earthquakes to get rid of them. But I feel like a lot, like, Chichen Itza, and you get these huge temple complexes where they've taken this energy and they've turned it into a negative thing. Is that the first thing that these do with these massive temple complexes is they pin down the energy, right? The energy that is readily available there. Because if you compare something like Chichen Itza to a Shinto shrine in Japan, what is a Shinto shrine? You walk through an archway and when they dropped the bomb on Nagasaki, the Shinto shrine doorways into another world stayed there. They were some of the few things that actually survived. They're so well constructed. But you walk through this archway that symbolizes you're moving into another world. And it's essentially just a shack, just a hut that you go to. It's designed to be very, very simple, to use the energy rather than suppress the energy. And I think when we look at a lot of the old Gothic architecture that we discussed in our last get together, which was a couple of weeks ago now, you look at these massive structures on these sacred sites, are they utilizing the energy or pinning the energy down? So there's energy there to be used. And, the ones that spire upwards, the pyramidal shapes are always pushing the energy up. But the structure is square, right? Very, very rarely you get
there's this
square in nature,
It's interesting you bring that up, because there's this interesting thing that I've been following that I'm really interested in. Oh, what's that? Temple of Man.
Have you seen this?
No.
Yeah, this is by a gentleman called Schwaller de Lubitz. And he's brilliant. He's a mathematician. So he basically goes through a lot of the temples in Egypt, like Karnak and places like that. And he shows that the temples are set out in proportion to the human body. So by the phi ratio. So the phi ratio with regard to that. So we're not talking the big pyramids. But what we're talking about is the one. And when you see like some of the temples laid out, you actually see that there's roughly a human shape to it. So it has the Holy of Holies that ends up about where a head is. But if you can imagine a human body laying on the ground, there's either, it's sort of like that shape, and you see a lot of Egyptian depictions of the human body, very legs together, arms to your side with the hands out. And that appears to be the mathematical proportions that they've tried to achieve with these temples, that you walk through the courtyard to the body of the temple. And the word temple itself, it means time. We should be experiencing a time shift in a really sacred place. It is temporal. And when you go into a temple, you're going on a journey. You go through the courtyard to the
But this connects us
place,
to like the earliest of temples too, because when we look at the earliest temples, right, they're always around those megalithic sites. And most, there's a lot of debate on this, but most modern archaeologists believe that these megalithic sites like Stonehenge were calendars, so that's a temple of time right there. Right. So it's not only a sacred grove, but it's a temple. People in the audience here are really saying that the audio and the echo is really bad. Is there any way you could try changing your cord, or do we want to call it? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I actually did that when I reset the computer. I unplugged everything. I replugged everything. I don't know what it is, and I don't think it's me, and I don't think it's you. Because when I was completely unplugged, I was still hearing that the sound is bad from your end. So it does feel like it's in the middle somewhere.
All right. So, well, I'm thinking, most of our audience has left at this point because of the audio issues, unfortunately. We're only down to a couple people.
So if you want, we can continue this at another time, because there's so much information. on constructing
Yeah,
temples.
let's
And the
get
other
in
thing,
touch, and we'll set up another interview where we can talk temple stuff, and you can show me your actual temple, you know, because there's a lot to discuss here, but if we're dealing with echo and bad audio, no one's going to get anything out of it. So
yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, because we've had so many good, and I haven't done anything different. I don't know.
I'll check on my end.
It's the weather.
Yeah, it's probably the weather, but we'll do what we can, right?
All right. Well, apologies to everybody who stuck with us, and with the bad weather and all of that, but we've got lots of information to share. It's just getting exciting.
Great. Well, I always love chatting with you, Shay. Thank you for taking the time and for waking up early, and sorry about all of the, the things that are out of our control.
Yeah.
And
right,
everyone who is with us.
Chatting. Big hugs to Dion if you're listening or trying to listen to us. We miss you, Dion.
We miss you, Dion. And everyone, please go check out Magick Magazine on YouTube. You can find Shay and all of her links in the description. Give her a subscribe. She's always releasing great new content. All right. Well, thank you, Shay. And let's talk soon. And yeah, much love.
All right. Every blessing. Bye.
Bye, guys.